week 3 of the pandemic, the lockdown, the shutdown, and all the ups and downs that this virus has brought to our life. So today, what I wanted to focus on, by the way, I hope you guys are all safe and healthy and hanging in there. I know we're all impacted in different ways, but we are all impacted and we are all in this together. And what I want to focus on today is just giving you guys some practical solutions, practical tips to navigate the day to day, and also, reinforce a strategy that I use all the time with my clients, and I personally practice it myself, called BRAIN. So, on a practical note, it's really important to keep a structure, maintain some kind of structure or routine in your day. If you're working from home, if you have kids and they are staying at home right now, it's important to take breaks, to play with them. Unstructured play is really good for children's mental health and our own mental health. If you could embark in what I call nature therapy, so that could be if you have a backyard or it's okay to walk around in your neighborhood, do that. Obviously, follow physical distancing guidelines. Play with your pets. If you don't have access to any of that, you could look up pictures of calming nature photos with maybe some meditation music in the background. The idea is to calm down our nervous system. And I know I talked about that repeatedly, if you've been following me and listening to me. I cannot reinforce that enough, because fear is felt through the body. And when we're afraid and feeling really threatened psychologically, it puts us in a survival mode, which essentially is what is known as the fight or flight or freeze response. And so when we're in that state, we're hyper aroused, we're hyper vigilant, and it's just very unpleasant. And you can start to believe your thoughts, So it's really important to calm our nervous system down through the breath, through the body. Nature helps with that. Play can help with that. Playfulness, joyfulness can help with that. So find ways to still have that in your day, if at all possible. Limiting your consumption of media related to the pandemic, or any media that is creating more negative feelings in you. One of my clients, she said she was so depressed, she watched Walking Dead all day. Well, that's not, your body is telling you that's not helping. So paying attention to your cues, still trying to exercise, moving your body, at home. There's lots of things available on the internet. There really is no good reason why you can't do it. Other than if you're sick or physically compromised. But even then, there's still things, small movements you can do. It's really good for our mental health. If you, unfortunately, are one of those people who are really economically threatened and or impacted by this, first of all, I want you to know that Get Mental feels your pain. I know that is one of the hardest things for us to endure as a human being, is when our basic survival, our capacity to pay for food, shelter, basic needs is threatened, right? So first of all, I want to validate that fear. I want to normalize that fear. Totally makes sense. My advice to you is, please reach out. Please reach out to people in your circle. Nobody can help you fully if they don't know what your needs are, right? We still have to make our needs known. And there's no shame in it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. We are in this together. And more these days, people are banding together, stepping up, showing up, figuring out ways, creative ways to help each other. So please, reach out to your circle. If that's not possible, if your circle can't help you, or you don't have a circle per se, reach out to community groups. There are still, nonprofit places in operation that are willing to help folks with food, with basic needs, emotional support. In San Diego, that's the Access and Crisis Line, shelters. There's still things that each community is doing to help people who are most vulnerable. So please reach out. The last thing I want to talk about is rain. I talked about this in my last one or two shows ago, I don't remember, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's so important. And this is a practice, okay, guys? This is a practice. And this is about connecting with our inner life. And why is that important? Because our inner life is what's creating our reality. So it behooves us to understand the things we're believing and the so-called unmet needs. Anytime there's pain, anytime there's emotional charge, there's an unmet need. There's a part of us that is needing some kind of care and attention. And sometimes just attending to that helps us move through the crisis with a little bit more ease, okay? So, rain. Recognize, allow, investigate, nurture. Recognize, very self-explanatory. We're all here. We're recognizing the fear of the unknown that we all are experiencing in one way, shape, or form, right? Nobody is immune to the impact of this effing virus. Effing virus. It's just crazy how a virus can create this kind of havoc in our planet. But it's here, okay? Recognize. Allow. Allow means to simply allow, not choosing feelings, right? Not saying, I don't want this feeling, I'd rather have this feeling. No, we are saying yes to it all. This is where we lean in a little bit more. We may not like it, but leaning in, trust me guys, to the extent that you can tolerate it, has wisdom and has value, because once you know how you're feeling, right, once you have a little bit more insight, it will help you with how to support yourself, right? So when we're in denial, there's a time and place for denial, but you don't want to be in denial the whole way through, because that's also not going to serve you. That's going to help you, you might end up, the things we do in denial is, we can put ourselves at risk, for example, because you're not really, acknowledging the true risks of the situation, or you could oversimplify the impact of this on you. So it's not a strategy for the long term. So that's why I'm encouraging you to just have a little bit more connection with your emotional feelings or state. So it could be that you're feeling scared, you're feeling worried, but challenge yourself to step outside of the unpleasant emotions and also think about, what other feelings did you have today? Did you experience a little happiness, a little joy, a little laughter, a little relief, a little satisfaction? Maybe you had a really nice sandwich, right? Like, there's more than one feeling that we go through in a day. And fear, although it may seem prominent and dominant, is not what you're just feeling in a day. It's usually not just the fear or the feeling that we experience. That's why it's important to go in and allow and identify these feelings so that you can get into contact with other feeling states that you have, right? But for some people who have, say, serious anxiety disorders or chronic anxiety disorders, yes, that could be, it could be that you're feeling fear constantly, and I hope you have a therapist. If you don't, please, to all of you guys listening, take advantage of telehealth services. These are online therapy services, video or phone, that can be done. It's confidential. We have to adhere to the best practice standards. It's effective in many cases, and insurance companies cover it. if you have insurance, okay? If you have an employer-based program called EAP, Employee Assistance Program, they also cover telehealth. So if you have these benefits, take advantage of it, okay? This is the time to access all the resources you possibly can to keep your head in the right mindset and your spirit in the right frame. So, okay, allow, right? Naming the feelings. Then we go into the I, investigate. Investigate is, what am I believing in this moment, right? What's the unmet need, you know? And that's going to vary from person to person, right? So, you know, for me, I was believing, you know, yesterday that it's going to be a while to find the cure. And that might be true, right? Our beliefs are sometimes true and sometimes they're not. But it's important to know what you're believing because that affects our emotional state. So the unmet need for me in that moment was to feel in control, to feel reassured, right? That this is going to end, you know, and it's going to be soon, right? Wanting relief. These were the parts of me that were needing that. And it's okay. It's okay. Like, we're all experiencing this one way or another. So the reason it's important to know that, because once I knew that I needed this reassurance in this moment, that this was all going to come to an end and that we were all going to be okay, I needed to feel hope, you know? And for me, just knowing that, just realizing that that's what it was about, was enough for me to feel released. Because it's like, oh, you know, I can validate that for myself because I've done enough work to be able to do that. And it doesn't, you know, solve the problem, right? RAIN is not about solving the problem. It's about moving through this in a more mindful way, in a more connected way, instead of disconnected way. Because that connection with our inner life is what's going to help us support ourselves. Does that make sense? The reason I'm encouraging you to connect with your inner life is that's going to guide you as to how to support yourself. It's the kindest, gentlest way to support yourself through this. You know, we don't need any more problems on top of this, right? We don't need a substance abuse problem on top of this, which is what could happen if you're not processing your feelings because you're just numbing it out, or whatever it is you're doing to cope, you know, like we all have our thing, right? But the mindfulness about this is what can create the least amount of damage and the most amount of expansiveness and release, moment to moment to moment. Because how do we get through a crisis? One moment at a time. One moment at a time. We're in this together, guys. Reach out. Give yourself permission. Lean in when you can. Ask for support. Take care of you. Be mindful of what you're watching, what you're listening to, how much of it you're doing that. And make sure you intentionally shift your focus to other things when it's too much. Okay? Distraction has a time and place, healthy distraction. Play therapy, nature therapy, pet therapy, you know, crossword puzzles, virtual talks with your loved ones, breathing, just calming the body through the breath, yoga practice, moving your body. We still have power and choice. We still have power and choice, okay? And one of the things I do personally, just to end with this, is I think about someone I really, that inspires me and sustains me, who have real life experience of surviving traumatic, horrible things. And for me, that's Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl is the author of the book called A Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he was a psychiatrist too at the time. And unfortunately, he had to witness his wife. I don't know if he witnessed, but he knew that his wife and his parents were going to be murdered during the Holocaust, and he had to live through that. And then when he came out alive, he wrote a book, and he used his personal pain, transformed it, and continued to help